Hello and welcome to episode 50 of the FreoBigfooty podcast, coming into our third season. This week Seppo and I will have a look at all the off-season news, including having a bit of a quick look at the intra-club game that's on tomorrow and the upcoming NAB Cup clash against Melbourne. Joining us this week is our usual residential Victorian expert. Seppo, how are you, mate?
Well, I'm very good, Centurions, and glad to be back for a big season of 2015. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, and the boys have been training extremely hard, and obviously you got a chance to go down there yourself, Seppo, and have a bit of a look when you're over a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, did the trip across to WA and managed to cap a Monday and Friday session down there, and right in the middle of that was the great news of Cam Sutcliffe signing. So that was the first big news for the year, and him signing on to 2017. It was great to see some of the younger guys now starting to sign up, and hopefully we'll reduce the amount of young good players coming out of contract at the end of this year. So it was good to get across, because kind of missed it being back in WA, but just getting down to Freo Oval and soak up, and rather than just read what you see on the forum, actually get down there and view it with your own eyes is always good.
Absolutely, and obviously a busy year coming up, Seppo, with a lot of players coming out of contract, and obviously some key players for us as well. So obviously getting Sutcliffe on board early was a terrific get, but I think it'll be a pretty busy year with a number of players looking to be re-signed between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, the good thing is that we've obviously got a lot of the key guys signed up, and I think a lot of the list management might come out of some retirements and cutting some fat at the end of this year. So I think we were in a very good position to retain a lot of our good kids. So we'll look forward to discussing that over the course of this season.
Absolutely, and I think it'd probably be a bit remiss of us, Seppo, to go any further in the podcast without thanking those loyal watchers every week who go down and give us those training reports. It's obviously for a number of us, including myself, who lives sort of north of the river, just having that opportunity to sort of see what the boys are doing each week has been fantastic and very much appreciated.
Yeah, it's much appreciated, all the guys that get down there and really just keep the forum ticking along with all the Freo news in the off-season. It's great to read just what happens down on the track and stuff that doesn't really get covered in the media, especially for the guys outside of WA as well. It's just great to have all those contributors down there and really painting a vivid picture of what heads down at Freo Oval.
Yeah, I think, as I said, we got a chance when we were down there, Seppo, to sort of catch up with Harry Reams and Salim Malik and Gaskin, and I think could have been there was there as well, and obviously those other guys that we haven't had a chance to sort of catch up with. I know Jedi Mind Tricks was down there a couple of times, and a few of the other boys. So, as I said, it's just great to be able to get that feedback during the off season.
And hopefully over the next few weeks we actually start to see some nice games and some video footage and really just get back into the swing of things of the whole season. So it's interesting just coming into round one, having a look at actually how we're tracking in terms of an injury list. The AFL website's put out a bit of an injury update across all clubs, and we're actually sitting pretty well. So we haven't picked up too many new injuries over the course of the off-season. Zach Dawson's really only been the main major one, with Nat Fyfe picking up a minor tweak of the hamstring at training the other day. But other than Morabito, that's been a bit cautious in his approach. We've pretty much had most of the guys out there, and there has been talk about Crowley and Mzungu and some of the guys missing little bits, but they seem to be able to complete some type of running session during the week, and it's great to see that we could be going into round one with not many players from our best 22 not available. And when you flick across every other club, there are some clubs absolutely struggling at the moment, especially to key players. And I think even just Geelong and Port that we're playing in the first two rounds have had players that have missed big chunks of the season, while other clubs that have had a really good run are clubs like Hawthorn and Sydney and Essendon. So we'll face them, and I reckon it'll be quite telling, especially teams like Port that need a lot of fitness space, and it's going to really tell towards the end of the season as well.
Yeah, it was a little bit. It was a bit disappointing with obviously when we were there seeing Fyfe. As I said, it wasn't a major hamstring; just going up for a mark there, and I'm sure he'll be fine. But they're not going to obviously risk him for a NAB Cup game, especially probably against Melbourne anyway to start off the season. So I don't think there's anything real to be concerned about there. Obviously, we did have a couple of other guys as well, like Ballard missed quite a lot of the pre-season, and there was, just wasn't even seen around the club. So don't think anyone's still 100% sure what happened there with young Jacob Ballard. So hopefully I know he's back out just sort of doing some laps now, which is good to see. And obviously Ed Langdon was another one, Seppo, who we haven't seen a lot of for a little while either.
Mm.
The other, any guys that really stood out for you in those sort of bit of time that you did see down there at Freo?
Yeah, well, if I was to hand out my Training the House Down awards, as everyone's calling it, to the younger crew, probably in my top three, you'd have guys like Crozier, Blackley, and maybe Taberner or Sheridan, or one of those guys that have really taken a step up, and some of the older guys that have really, one of them been turning back the clock would be McFarlane, and even guys like Subin and De Boer have, from what I've watched and what the guys have been talking about on the forum, has actually put in some really good performances on the track, and even turned it up a bit in the intra-club last week, and hopefully get to see them again tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that was the key thing out of the intra-club last week. Obviously, it was a pretty one-sided affair, similar to the game we saw, Seppo, when they had a pretty good intra-club hit out at training there, and obviously they had a stronger side and a weaker side, and they did make some changes. But it was good to see probably some of those guys who some people would consider to be fringe 22s, such as Subin and Crozier, actually having really good games and pushing their selection for round one. And obviously, like, I know Crozier played the last 6 games in finals, and I certainly am a firm believer of him being in that 22, and that could be part of the reason why Mayne has been spending a fair bit of time down back in those match simulations as well and training.
It's interesting just even what they're doing with Mayne, and the way some people say he looks like a fish out of water playing down back, and then some of others have actually commented that he's actually competing well, got a good closing speed, and throwing his body around. So it'll be interesting how he's actually used down back, and does that free up Johnson to do something else, or are we bringing him down there to cover for someone not like McFarlane or Dawson or another tool that may not be there? And it's just funny when you look at the back six makeup of where Mayne actually sits into it. When you start to mention Spur, Duffield, Sutcliffe, it's very harder to sort of justify another player like that down there. But maybe there's a plan for it. Maybe we'll see it in a game. But it's just quite interesting to see that type of quite a prominent positional change during the off season.
Yeah, it'll also be interesting to see tomorrow. Obviously, we're taping this on a Friday or Thursday night. Tomorrow morning, obviously, the club has an intra-club game starting at 9:30 down at Fremantle Oval. And it'll just be interesting to see how the club, or how Ross lines them up this week, whether he continues to have a strong side and a weaker side, or whether he tries to maybe even them up a little bit and have sort of players playing against each other for that round one spot, sort of guys who are sort of fighting for that same spot.
I think in the previous season we had an intra-club. It was basically the best defenders on the best forwards, so they could balance the sides to that to see how they actually go against a good, strong opponent for each position. But I imagine there'll be a couple of people like Pav and Fife that they might actually pull out and keep them out of the intra-clubs, or see even some of the NAB challenge matches, and really let the other guys fight it out. And some of those guys might just be cotton-wooled up, ready for round one, or maybe the last NAB when they're ready to go.
Yeah, well, obviously we haven't seen Pav play in any of the intra-clubs yet, so it'll be interesting to see how they manage him, obviously, considering that when we were down there, Seppo obviously saw him doing a bit of running laps around the oval and sort of, having a bit of a chat with him. He was actually quite talkative during the game down there, sort of talking to the match committee of the big footy side. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see whether he actually does get a run tomorrow or not, or whether they do keep him in cotton wool for another week or two.
Especially when you look at the... we've got 2 home games in the NAB Challenge and 1 away, 1 in Sydney, so I can't imagine they'd be sending him and the likes of Sandy off to that. So I suppose they will get some time, maybe for the last one against the Eagles. That's very close to round one, some time in there. But obviously they're not rushed, and it's going to be a long battle this season, a marathon, and they're not going to rush some of those guys straight back in. But one guy that really stood out from the pre-season and been running well is McFarlane. So he actually looked like he's wound the clock back a bit and looking supremely fit. I reckon he's lost maybe a kilo or 2 or picked up some speed, but maybe it was because of last year he didn't, in hindsight, didn't actually look that fit, or carrying a bit of an injury. But now he's probably had a clean up and a bit of time off. He's looking fresh as a daisy, and it's going to be exciting seeing him line up in the back line, start of the first few rounds.
Absolutely, and obviously there's going to be quite a lot of consideration about looking at how they're going to line up for round one against Port Adelaide. We obviously have a little bit of issues themselves. Obviously dealing with the two guys from Essendon with the Paddy Ryder and Monfries, and then obviously having guys like Wingard and Trengrove who'll probably be missing round one by the sounds of it with various injuries. So it probably sounds like a good time for Fremantle to be getting Port Adelaide at this stage.
Mm.
Any other sort of players stand out for you in the pre-season chop-up so far, Seppo?
Not too much. The one thing I did surprise me was DeLuca, that we picked up one of the last picks in the draft, and I didn't have too much of a high expectation for, but to see him out there, I think he did 2 or 3 little flashy things that sort of picked my eyes up as I was watching the game, and he's got a good rap from some people on the board that he was one of the most hardest workers out there that currently playing waffle. So we might have found another sort of De Boer, real tough, nuggety player that goes in hard and really works hard. He's very quick. A lot of people have criticised him for speed, but I've seen him move out there, and compared to some of the other players, he's quite quick. So it's unfortunate that we haven't seen much of Langdon, the old cult hero 26. But from the Weller and Blackley and DeLuca all seem to have really taken to their first pre-season, and they look really good.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like, obviously there was a bit of talk about Blakely and his speed, particularly when you're looking at his highlights video. But I mean, the couple of times we saw him and myself, Seppo, down at training, he obviously shows that his speed over 20 metres may not be exceptional. Obviously, he did a pretty poor 20-metre sprint time for a midfielder of his size, but he seems to be reasonably quick off that first 4 or 5 metres, which is obviously the crucial part, able to and good agility. So it'd be interesting to see when he gets into a game situation. Obviously, and I think Ross Lyon will play him a little bit in the NAB Cup, whether that stands up against opposition sides or whether he sort of just stood out on that day for whatever reason.
He certainly looks like he's a second-year player. His body shape compared to some of the other players, he almost looks like a second-year player, not a first, because he just seems to have that sort of broader sort of size across the shoulders and more of that mature look. And like you say, he's not a quick mover, but he's a smart mover, kind of like Mundy and Barlow, the way that they go. They're not quick off the mark, but they're agile and get away quickly. So it'll be just great to see someone like that. Probably not what we need at the moment, but it's great sort of insurance policy. We know that if one of those other mids go down, that he's ready to step up. But I think it might be very hard for those first-year players to crack into our 22 when so many of those other guys have stood up. And we haven't even mentioned Clancy Pearce, because he's one that's been training well and performed quite well in the intra.
Yeah, the other guy sort of looking to stand up in that midfield, I think, as well, would be Tom Sheridan. And obviously there was quite a conflicting reports on his game from the intra-club the other day. Some people thought he looked really good in that first half, and obviously the Fremantle coaching staff were quite happy with him. We had a number of people on Big Footy felt that his performance was below par and not much chop. So it'll certainly be interesting to see how he goes in the next few days to whether he pushes a claim for a spot in that 22.
He's certainly got a great set of wheels and skills when he's given space, but I think he's criticised because he plays more of an outside role, and he look to see like he's a bit sort of not involved, but the way he plays on the outside is almost like Hill-like, that once he gets going and gets a bit of speed, he can be quite damaging with his kicks, and even just sprinting off the mark and running onto it. Hopefully we get a spot there on the wing for him. If it's not Sutcliffe pushing up there, there's guys like Sheridan, and even he could be putting on pressure on Daniel Pearce to really become a really good inside 50 player.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. At the moment, I don't think we really need another inside player. We've got plenty of guys who can get it there. We just need a bit of extra speed on the outside and guys who can make good decisions. And obviously, even when we watched Daniel Pearce at training the other day, tends to, he can be frustrating at times, as you said. He does those little fumbles, and probably forward of 50 or forward of the centre line, I think he's a terrific player and obviously gets the ball to advantage, but just doesn't look always that comfortable when you're playing from in the back half, and we saw that a bit last year in the final against Port Adelaide as well. So I think he'll be one of those guys who will probably be be on the cusp of the 22. I think in terms of players trying to push for his position. So well, that's what we'd be hoping for anyway, seeing some of those guys come in and do that. So it'll certainly be interesting to see how those guys sort of stand up, because, as you said, with guys like Clancy Pearce and that also trying to get a spot, at the moment we've probably got 25, 26 trying to get into the 22 at least at this stage, and probably even a couple more trying to push as well.
Well, there's one interesting player we probably haven't mentioned yet, but I'm not sure if he's had a full pre-season. I think Brady Gray had stress fractures towards the end of last season, or he's only just struggling to get back out there now. I think he played a bit of the Indigenous game versus the Eagles, but it sounds like he actually went okay in that, and I'd love to see him test it out, even just to work out, see him amongst it all at the high level, not just what he did down at Peel. Really just sort of get an idea, is he going to be the mid, or can he even be a nice back pocket player? Because that's one thing we did discuss quite a lot last year, that we don't have a lot of depth around that at draft time, and he might be a perfect little player to provide a backup to some of the smaller types, and he seems quite agile and nifty and hard, so that might be a nice place to test it out in the NAB Cup coming up. Yeah,
I think it was also interesting when we watched that game in the other training session, that intra-club. Obviously, Aptness was very, very good in the contested mark, Seppo, but obviously didn't seem to get into it in the intra-club the other day. So I think he'll be one of those players. I know they're trying to push for that three-man forward line to give it a go early in the NAB Cup. So I think it'll be up to him to try and maybe have a big performance tomorrow to sort of try and cement his spot in that 22.
I think when you look at it, it's almost Taberner has runs on the board, and he played it well, even coupled through the training sessions that we watched, that he can really sort of slot in to the side along with Sandlands and Pavlich, and almost become that centre half forward or full forward, and roam around a bit up the ground. And if we're going to plonk Sandy at full forward, this gives the opportunity to push up the ground, and I think Taberner works better in the side with those two there, and Aptness might come in at a different stage, maybe when Pav's not playing.
Yeah, the other guy I think who's had a much better, obviously, pre-season is Zach Clark. He obviously struggled last year with that knee injury after the music festival, and although he didn't sort of dominate in that intra-club we saw, he certainly moved around the ground, and all indications from Ross Lyon are that obviously Clark will be starting to move into that number one ruck spot a little bit more, and they're going to try and play obviously Sandlands down forward a bit more, and hopefully after the umpire's edict the other day about holding in marking contest, he should obviously try and get a few more kicks in front of goal, considering they generally manhandle him and hang all off him when the ball does get down there.
All we can do is hope, because I really don't see it happening, even though they have talked about blocking, and if you're not going to go for the ball, but the amount of times that Sandy gets scragged and not paid those free kicks, he could be very damaging in that forward spot. And especially if we can deliver some great ball onto him, all we have to do is reach up and take a mark, or if not, draw a free kick. So I just hope to God that the media pick her up on it if it is like that in the first few rounds, and I'd love to just get that special footage when they sort of do a highlights or a cut of every single thing and put it in front of the umpire's nose, and just see if if they are being consistent with that ruling, because that will certainly go to our favour with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The other key bit of news, I suppose, in the off-season as well, Seppo, or probably more off-field, is that once again Fremantle just about on track to crack the 50,000 members for the first time. So nearly at just over, I think I heard the other day, just over 48,000 members already. And obviously,
we're chasing down the Eagles. We're not too far behind them, so we'll be in front of them soon, no doubt.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think it's terrific for the club, and obviously a number of people, whether it's coinciding with obviously the new stadium being built, and so people are able to get access to tickets. Especially now they've talked about limiting having at least 10,000 tickets every home game for either club to be available to the general public. That generally means that you're going to be down to 50,000 members, so who are able to get tickets to the game. So if you're looking at it as it sits now, Seppo, obviously those members of the Eagles and Dockers, if you don't get in probably this year, you're probably unlikely to get a members ticket already before the game even starts. So obviously there'll be more available for the general public, but it'll be interesting to see how quickly those tickets do sell.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting once that stadium's up and running, and it's just a shame that we've got to wait a couple of more years for it. So
yeah. No, absolutely. So it'll still be, as I said, be a little bit of time before that happens. So it'll be interesting to see what they do from there. So, but any other sort of news or off-season news, Seppo, that caught your eye?
Oh, well, one thing, which is even just with the game plan, the way that the guys are kicking around in the full match sims and even the intra-club, you could see that they're focused on quick 45-degree accurate, ball movement from the back line with to make it very quick and accurate, similar to the Hawthorn model. I think it's been discussed. It's the way they go, and the ball retention's quite big, and they did get punished quite a bit when they turned it over and made a bad decision. So we saw that a bit at training. So it's been drummed into the players to really focus it on their ball movement and their accuracy with the kicks. And I suppose if you're a bad kick, and I know Ross doesn't excuse skill errors, but he's going to be a bit harder on it. And hopefully we've got a lot of people in there, guys like Crozier that have got beautiful kicks, and Walters, just feed the ball in there. So hopefully this game plan's slight shift is going to get the ball quicker with Sandy plonked in the hot spot. That was one thing I did notice, that Ross did grill anyone that didn't really kick to that hot spot, and there was always a full forward and Suma getting the guys working towards that dangerous spot in the centre. So hopefully a lot of our goal kicking issues come from the guys correcting their kicks and taking more set shots from directly in front, not down the into the pockets.
In saying that, Seppo, the times they've been at training, they've obviously been doing quite a bit of work on their goal kicking. And to be perfectly honest, it wasn't that terrific when we were, in the few times that I've been down, been a couple of times since, and the goal kicking hasn't been a sort of highlight. So it's certainly something they do need to work on, and hopefully they'll be a little bit better for it. But I think in one of the posts the other day, Salah Malik was talking about just the weighted kicks of Walters and how he's just able to hit those targets, and it's just been an absolute joy to watch. And I don't think people realise how much he was missed last year after doing that injury in round 3, and I think having him back for the whole season will be terrific for us. And obviously the other guy who stood up even in last week in the West Coast Indigenous All-Stars game with Stephen Hill obviously playing a crucial run through the middle, so he looked very good as well.
It's going to be great once you... a lot of those guys actually missed out the intra-club, so you didn't see too much from, I think, Walters. He played the first half and came off, likewise with Johnson. But when you start to talk about those guys, Hill, Johnson, Walters... it's really exciting, and even Ballantyne hasn't been mentioned yet. But if we can just get a forward line with Ballantyne and Walters working in tandem with Sandy, it's going to be quite dangerous. And I think there's a lot of stats out there that say that Walters and Ballantyne, it's even been discussed on the main board on the forum, that could be two of the best small forwards in the comp. Even though they've got different playing styles, they are crucial. If they're both out there, it's going to be a nightmare for opposition defence. And
especially as well because it's going to give Crozier being that third, he's probably going to get that third sort of player, and although he's a little bit taller, he has got that ability to play small and agile, so it's certainly going to make that forward line very dangerous if we have the 3 talls and smalls. So obviously the main thing will be probably with Taberner and Atnas, and if Pav does play in that way, being able to keep that forward pressure with those 3 talls in there to make sure that the ball doesn't come out too easily at the other end as well. Yeah, so obviously the other sort of major part, obviously, they'll be talking about going into the round 1 is obviously looking at the game plan, and there's been a sort of bit of talk around sort of the local media, and as you said, Seppo, just the fact that Fremantle are trying to get that ball in a little bit quicker, and it'll be interesting to see how they obviously working on their shorter kicks, whether they sort of whether that run and carry is going to be as critical if they're able to hit those targets through the middle and sort of linking up through the back half.
It's going to be a big point of how we're actually going to get more on the board, because they did say that we've got to be a more of attacking side, and they sort of failed, even though the overall scoring dropped off last season. We didn't really increase our scoring, and we want to be able to getting over 100 points more, and I reckon that's how they're going to do it. So it looks like they've put the things in place to make it happen. Let's just hope the guys have worked on their goal-kicking accuracy enough to be able to convert it every time we go forward. So hopefully, I don't think we'll get to see it straight away, but I reckon by round 1 we'll get a fair idea of what they've tweaked and changed will be in there. So I'm not going to be too concerned about these upcoming NAB results, and if anything, I expect Melbourne may touch us up in that first week if they bring on a strong side, and likewise with the West Coast if they play to get their premiership hopes alive pre-season, have a win there. So we might come away with our 3 pre-season games with 3 losses, but I know I'm not going to be too upset because I think everyone's come to expect from now what we're going to see in the pre-season. So, but the good thing is that there'll be a lot of pressure for spots on because Peel have a bye in round 1, so all those guys on the fringe that really want to get into the best 22 have got to put on shows through this NAB challenge because they're not going to get much of a chance straight up once we start to get into the thick of things. And when you look at our fixture, who we've got in the first few rounds, we've got Port Adelaide and Geelong and then the Derby and then Sydney. It's not going to be easy, and let's just hope we do enough over these next coming weeks to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that stood out probably, Seppo, as well, when we were down at the training sessions were, although I know we've talked about, we mentioned obviously Fife tweaking his hammy, but you could just notice the difference in the sort of, he had that sort of swagger about him, didn't he? The fact that when he was sort of walking along, walking through the group, he was sort of just, not sort of like, not over the top or anything, but you could just see how he was that confidence about his, the faith in his own ability when he was out there in that training session.
It's definitely confidence and not cockiness because he's still quite a measured person and he's definitely walking around with his head a bit higher. Well, let's just hope for all the guys that want to see him with a Brownlow that he can keep a cool head out in the field because he's certainly, the way he moves and can play and the way he was just tearing up on the track, if this hamstring's not going to be an issue and he's there round 1, he is going to be a player to watch and a player that's just going to set the field alight. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I suppose the other big news through the week, Seppo, is obviously, we haven't had too many father-sons over the duration, and obviously Clem Michael was our first, but we, have been few and far between. But obviously the news that young Pav and Mundy both had boys, so, down the track in 18 years, the two of them coming through together at the same time, could be interesting for the club.
It's a long way to wait. It's some exciting news now, but let's just hope they're still father and son and the AFL doesn't decide to scrap the rules and the current system before then. But it's great just reading up and the guys that have been discussing on the forum. There's a couple of other players like Mundy, that's his second boy, so he's already got one. And I think guys like Roger Hayden and Michael Johnson both have young boys that I think just starting to get into the Oz kick now and getting to that age 5 or 6 where we won't have to wait as long for them. But it'll be great to just keep a track of them and see how they're tracking as they start to get older.
Yeah. I suppose the other thing is, which has been one of the things on the forum this week is talking about, which I think Moist Biscuit put out there, mate, was talking about which player you think is going to have a breakout year, Seppo, and who do you think will step up and take that?
Well, I've put my name down for Crozier because I think that's the more popular choice. Everyone's kind of just seen from that first intra-club game, plus it could be tomorrow he lights it up again, but I think he's the one that towards the end of the year just showed that he was coming of age and really putting on good performances. He's one that's got that X factor, and I think Neil and Sutcliffe have already sort of shown that already and had that long extended runs in the side where if you're calling stepping up or breakout year, it's always the second or third year players that you've had time in the system and really start to push for just regular gigs and almost match winning performances. So it really gets down to one of two players. Crozier would be my choice, and I suppose Tabnar's the other. So who do you think is going to be another breakout year, or even just improve again on last?
Well, I mean, obviously, Crozier is the obvious choice based on what we saw at the end towards last year and this year. I would still like to see Sheridan be able to cement himself in that sort of side, and I think he has got the ability to do so. I think he just needs to string some games together. I think the other person who may be able, as you said, a lot of people are talking about Taberner, whether he can do it. I still think he's probably going to be another year or two away. I think just from that bulk, I think his running's going to be good. I think it's just his kicking he needs to work on a little bit more. I suppose the other, I suppose it's going to be more the interesting side of it. Seppo is probably going to be those guys who are probably on the crossroads as well, like whose careers probably one way or the other. It's going to be probably a defining year for them, and I think there's probably, I'd say probably 4 or 5 guys who would, you would have to put in that mix of guys who potentially are at the crossroads and are probably playing for their AFL careers, certainly at Freo, if not in the AFL. So, I mean, Clancy Pearce, you'd have to think, would be probably one of those guys. Matt DeBoer would probably be another one.
And even Crowley could be another one too. That, you know, if he's not improving on his output, his spot could come under risk if there's other guys being able to doing a run with role, and guys like Mzungu that have given that job before. That's could spill into Crowley's regular spot on the side if that job's not there anymore for him.
Yeah, I think the key thing for Crowley is not just, I mean, I don't think anyone doubts his commitment or anything like that. It's just that they were exposed a little bit last year when the ball was sort of like, whoever he was sort of guarding or, you know, manning up, they basically went against him when there's particularly in the centre square and exposed Crowley a little bit in there. And I think that's something that obviously the match committee and that will probably be looking at over in the off-season, find ways to do that, or whether they move Crowley onto players who aren't playing in the middle and just going head-to-head with those three in there. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in that sort of area. But, you know, there are those sort of guys who probably do need to step up this year. Obviously, the other guy who sort of brings up a lot of debate as well, Seppo, is probably Craig Moller, who I think is on the last year of his Rookie B contract.
Yep.
So he's obviously another player that would need to, you'd think, step up this year, particularly for Peel, to be able to, you know, give himself another chance of being on the main list.
He certainly, from what I've seen of him, he certainly looks like he's got the skills and seems to just show those little moments of brilliance. And I think for last year for Peel, he did it a couple of times, but it almost seems like he needs a real sort of a maturity increasement and even just a bit more of that body size, because he still looks so scrawny, and he's still got a couple of years before he really starts to put it on for a ruckman, because you can't expect too much from him, but at least show some signs that he's worth maybe even elevating off the rookie list and be there as the ruckman, because Sandy won't be around forever. And really, a player like Griffin as well, he might be, you know, looking towards the end of his, and if he's not getting regular gigs behind Sandy and Clark and Hanneth, and as Moller comes through, and if they can get Aptness to pinch hit, it's going to be very hard for Griff to get games, and Moller's really going to show that he's worth keeping on the list, and hopefully at the end of this year do enough to maybe even get a promotion, because I'm not sure if we can keep him on the rookie list anymore. No,
well, that's right. I mean, a lot of people forget he's still only 20. He feels like he's been around on the list for years and years. So, I mean, if we look at most players in the ruck area, they probably don't really start doing anything until they're 24, 25. And if you even look at guys who had breakout years last year in the AFL, like Segler and those sort of blokes, they're still mid-20s, where, you know, Moller's still a number of years away from even getting to there. So, although it just seems like he has been on the list, and he has been on the list for a long time, but it does take those bigger guys, as we know, longer to develop and build up. So, but I think, you know, at least he, you know, those times we were watching, he was keeping up with the main group and with the running drills and stuff like that. So it will be still an important year for him, though, because obviously he does come out of that rookie contract at the end of the year.
So what are your thoughts on Griffin and what he can do, and how sort of he can go with this side and get an opportunity?
Well, all reports from the pre-season were that Griffin hasn't impressed from the people that we've spoken to, which is a bit disappointing, and obviously he thought he might have been trying to push hard for a spot. I think Griffin maybe sort of used a little bit when they rest Sandy for games, and obviously play Clark as the number one sort of ruckman, and then obviously have Griffin as that backup ruckman. And I think Griffin has shown that he can play forward a little bit. He's done it quite a bit for when he was sort of playing at East Fremantle before the Peel alignment, and I think he'll still be in that pinch hitting role. Obviously, you know, it's whether you have him or Hanneth. I think Griffin still does move across the ground a bit better than Hanneth. So you'd have to think that I think he'll get an opportunity or two this year. I think they're going to obviously try and maybe rest Sandy for those long road trips, and then obviously use Clark in that role as the number one ruckman, with Griffin coming in as the backup. All right, Seppo, any other things you want to bring up before we finish up for tonight?
No, other than the fact that it's nice to just have footy back and tuning into the Hawks Collingwood NAB Challenge game today, and just see the Collingwood get up. I've actually already placed a couple little sneaky bets on just the outsiders, because the NAB Challenge always seems to throw up the odd result. So, yeah, it's just great to have footy back, and great couple of weeks over the next 4 to really watch all these other sides and even just see some new faces and new names and different colours. Yeah, it's pretty exciting, and yeah, just can't wait for our first game against Melbourne next Thursday. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything happening on the boards that people need to know about, Seppo? Any with the
Other than
tipping?
just everyone joining in for the fantasy and super coach leagues, and if you haven't already logged in or found your team, make sure you do that and get in before round 1, because it'll come around sooner you know it. I think there's a couple of vacancies in the current couple of leagues we got going in there, so have a look at all the ones tagged competitions, and you should be able to find a couple of different leagues to join depending on what you're into. And yeah.
Perfect. All right, thanks again for joining us, Seppo, and maybe we'll touch base next week after the NAB Challenge game with Melbourne, so we can sort of dissect that a little bit and have a look at how the boys look.
And I just can't wait until the AFL announce our first squad for the year. So, albeit NAB Challenge, it's going to be exciting next week, sitting down to see who's playing in our first game.
Yeah, perfect. All right, that's it for this week, and we will see you all again next week. That's it for now. And hopefully we'll, if you haven't had a chance, get down and watch the boys at the intra-club tomorrow morning at 9:30, or next Thursday down at Fremantle Oval. I know there's only limited tickets left, if any, so it should be a terrific atmosphere down there watching the boys at Fremantle Oval. That's it for now, and we'll catch you again next week. Bye.